rebounding. So I was talking about using the fluidity of the system as a therapeutic force. There is an entire 20-hour course on how to shake the body, which is kind of funny. But truly, it's about, coming at it from different angles, different techniques. I'm pushing through the legs. I'm going while the patient's on their front, on their back. But ultimately, it's just a matter of finding the natural rhythm of the patient that you're working with and then matching that rhythm. So as I push, I'm feeling that fluidity coming back towards me. We ideally don't want to do any patty cake kind of stuff because this feels very jarring and uncomfortable and the patients will get mad at you. But if you can keep your hands in good contact and think of it almost like water in a saucer, you're trying to create that fluid motion without spilling the water in the saucer. So we'll start here, just randomly. So as I'm pushing, I'm feeling that fluid wave come back to me. And then what's great about rebounding, it's a great technique to do. I'm sure some of you already use it in your practice in some way or shape or form, but it's great as a diagnostic tool as well as a treatment tool. So, don't tell anybody, but sometimes if I'm absolutely not sure what to do next, I'll do some rebounding as a means to figure out what the body wants or needs, right? So while I'm feeling that natural rhythm of the system, you can encourage your patient, and you yourself should also be aware of where does it feel like the body is moving smoothly and where does it feel like the body is resisting or bracing. So the analogy I like to use is you imagine a drop of water on a pristine pond and the way that those ripples kind of move out from that spot. Where in this patient's system does it feel like there's a rock sticking out of the pond? So as we're moving here, I'll just point out a couple things. You'll notice that Nellen is doing an interesting left-right bobblehead thing, but there's no rotation left or right. So whether she realizes or not, there's some kind of restriction or tension in the neck and throat, perhaps jaw area. As we're moving through here, the trunk seems to be moving okay, but we lose a little bit of motion somewhere in the hip and belly here as well. The left leg seems to be moving a little bit better than the right leg. And then, this is where the magic starts, right? So now, once you have that rhythm, you can start to play around with the amplitude. So you're still maintaining the rhythm, but you can go a little bit smaller, or you can go a little bit bigger. You can also play around with the direction, because what we want is to throw the body into so much chaos it doesn't have the opportunity to get too comfortable. So for example, I could come into the pecs, and now I'm working through the pec musculature. And you'll see the head bobbing in a slightly different way. I can go hard, I can go soft. I could be going straight down on the chest. I could be going straight up on the chest. You can rebound into limbs, although it's a little bit trickier because sometimes the limbs move at a little bit of a different pace than the trunk. So if you're doing this for the first time, stick mostly to the trunk. It's a little bit easier to manage. Coming down into the hips. We saw that there was that area that was not moving particularly well, so let's get into that area that wasn't moving well, and let's mess around. So we're going to play, be curious, keep your focus broad, and we're going to shake a little bit more aggressively here. And what you'll notice is that chaos has created a different pattern in Nellen's neck. So it's still doing a little bit of the side-to-side bob. Now that I said it, she's paying attention to it again. It's locked up again, but it was kind of doing this little bit of this flowy left and right rotation thing again. So we're starting to see some changes in the motion. You can come down into the leg and thigh. Sometimes you'll feel, for example, a quad is really tight, or maybe the internal rotation is really sticky on one side. You could go upwards and towards the hip and create sort of a diagonal rebounding up into the opposite shoulder. So I'll just shake for another moment. We'll do a couple other things here, and then we'll bring it back and we'll take a look at how Nellen's trunk mobility is looking after the fact. You can even make your occipital condyle release, your gentle hold of the neck, into a gentle rebounding. If you imagine just gently pulling that tissue and feeling how the head and neck rocks vertically towards you. All right, so coming back into the trunk, as I rotate, as I do the rebounding through the trunk again, and Ellen's head is still doing a little bit of that right-left lateral bobbing, but we're starting to get a bit of rotation. More importantly, though, it seems like some of the structures in her neck that we're bracing and holding have started to soften a little bit. She's moving just a little bit easier, in particular towards the left side. The nose seems to want to turn to the left. It doesn't quite want to turn to the right yet. So I might need to come over to the other pec and keep going, work on the other hip, that sort of thing. And then what you'll notice for sure in the legs is that they've gotten a lot more relaxed. The legs have spread out to a more comfortable position. The hips and pelvis are flat to the table. The body is happy here now, whereas before it was kind of bracing and holding a little bit. Okay. So that's rebounding. And basically it's those same principles of feeling the rhythm, crashing that rhythm into the restriction or tension, and then just messing around with the directions, the amplitude, and feeding back with the patient as well, right? It can be very fun as well. You should have fun while you're working, honestly. But the key is use it as a therapeutic tool by playing around with the amplitude and the direction and easing into the body, but use it as a diagnostic tool as well. Challenge your patient. What do you feel? What do you notice? And they may be the ones to tell you exactly what's wrong. Oh, I'm feeling this spot here that isn't moving while I'm doing that, right? Or I'm noticing that my hip is particularly sticky or tight. And then you can, again, it helps to have the patient intend to soften into the areas you're working on too, because then their subtle energies and awareness are helping your subtle energies and awareness too to create those deep changes that we want to see in the body.